welcome to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Lowrys, and the Good Girl Confessional podcast is proudly brought to us by WB40, Women Beyond 40, a platform for women 40, 50, 60 and beyond who want to talk about the real stuff. You can check us out at WB40.com. Today, I would also like to do a huge shout out to the co-authors of this extraordinary book of hope. It is called The Power to Rise Above. It is edited by Sandy Davies. Myself, along with 29 other incredible female writers, have actually shared our stories of trauma, bullying, and how we actually continue to rise in spite of those circumstances. Please do check out the book at thepowertoriseabove.com.au. And if for any reason you cannot afford to buy your own copy of this book, please do reach out to me. I believe this book should really be in the hands of everybody who needs it. Thank you so much. Before we begin today's podcast, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this podcast is recorded. For me, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and I would like to pay my deep respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I would like to pay homage to their ancient history of storytelling. Today in the podcast, I'm really excited to be talking to two kick-ass women whose views about pro-aging are very much in alignment with my own. Two really incredible women who found each other as teenagers and have been lifelong friends ever since. These girls are in their 50s. I'm talking to Mel Kenny and to Trish Gordon, and together they have this extraordinary podcast, which I love, and it is called Don't Give a 50, because quite frankly, no one should be giving a 50 after the age of 50. These girls tackle all the issues involved with being a woman over the age of 50. They talk about the fun stuff, the hard stuff, and actually everything in between, which is fantastic. They are wise, they're brilliant, and I love their pro-aging message. It's pretty much very similar to mine. I love these girls. They're fun, they're energetic, they're amazing, and they don't shy away from the tough issues as well, right? So please welcome to the confessional for the very first time, Mel and Trish from Don't Give a 50 podcast.
Hey there. When Sandy's not interviewing kick-ass women, she's hanging out with me at Alex the Seal, a podcast about music and nostalgia. I'm Jo Pybus, and each episode, Sandy and I talk about all the songs that got us hooked up, knocked up, and broken up. Do yourself a favour and search Alex the Seal on your podcast app. Love you, Molly.
Hello, Trish and Mel. Welcome to the Good Girl Confessional.
Hi, Sandy. Hello, Sandy. Great to be here.
It is so amazing to be here, and I am so excited to see you girls. I haven't seen you for a little while because last time we chatted, I was on your fabulous podcast.
Yes.
You Don't Give a 50.
Yeah, you were, and we loved having you. That was such a great chat. You're awesome.
Yeah. You girls are awesome. So thank you for being here today. I was just saying how amazing you both look. I think it must be all that sunshine in Queensland.
Oh, we do get outside a lot, Trish and I. We're outdoor girls.
We do like the fresh air.
Yeah.
It's not too much sunshine going on in Queensland right at this very minute, but the last few weeks has been ample.
Mm-hmm.
But the humidity,
diabolical.
That is no 50-year-old woman's friend, let me tell you.
No. Humidity is such a cow, especially for our hair. And I reckon once you hit like perimenopause, forget it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Nothing, I've even been into my husband's 3B underneath the boobs, cheeks. Yeah.
I love it. The butt cheeks.
Yeah, that's it. Balls, butt cheeks and boobs.
Well, I was just thinking, what's the 3B? I was about to say, okay, balls, butt cheek and boobs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
I love it.
Balls, so
no, you don't, darling. You don't. No.
I use it occasionally for underneath my boobs.
Under the boobs. I like that. Boob sweat's a bitch.
Boob sweat, yeah. There was major amounts of that while we had that heat wave. Sandy, it was, really, ugly up here.
I was feeling for you girls. I mean, we had a spate of 37 and 38 degree days here, and Melbourne's sun is very different again. It was diabolical. It was horrendous.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I was like, you know that I couldn't go to hell, so I better watch myself because I can't deal with the heat.
Yeah, yeah. It makes people cranky. I think,
Yeah.
when you're just so uncomfortable all the time and, if you're not sleeping well because of the heat, if you don't have air conditioning or whatever, which some people don't, so just relying on fans. And I just think people get really tired and irritated, irritable, really
More
cranky.
so.
All
Even
of
more
it.
so than we are normally.
And dehydrated, and no one likes a dehydrated, cranky, menopausal woman, believe me.
No, that's not a great combination, is it?
I like to keep myself locked indoors in air conditioning at times.
Yeah, me
For
too.
the benefit of myself and everyone else around me.
That's just self-management, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the way to go because you ladies are smart.
Yeah, we like to think so.
Yeah.
We
have that whole debate whether we're smart, dumb, smart, dumbs, though. That's
dumb.
a whole new theory we have on life.
We're still trying to work that one out.
Look, I think I could be all of the above. It just depends on the day, right?
No, you're smart. We've worked you out.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, believe me. I was just having a lovely conversation with a woman on the phone just before, and believe me, we were trying to just work out ridiculously simple maths. And do you think between the two of us we could get it? No. And
That's what calculators for, isn't it?
That's what I said to her. Why are we even trying? I don't understand what we are doing right now. It was quite funny.
I think it is that determination, that old school, we can do this. If there is a way and I will find it, determination.
So true.
Sandy, I'm hearing you. I was never good at maths. It's not a strength. So I've parked that. I can count and I can do basic arithmetic in my head.
So
and
10 fingers and 10 toes.
I can work out, if there's a sale rack and it's 20%, I can work it out. All the important things.
What else does a girl need, really?
What else does a girl need?
Exactly right. And, it's I'm okay with it. I'm quite comfortable to be like, numerically challenged. I'm just like, no, it's not for me.
Same. Everyone's got their strengths and maths obviously isn't ours, is it? Trish, you're better at maths, I think, than I am.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I wouldn't put myself in any sort of extension program.
Damn, because here are all my questions about maths. No, I'm just joking.
Can you cross those off the list right now?
I think had I have applied myself, I would have been okay. But my attention didn't really allow for my maths abilities to flourish.
It's interest too, isn't it? Like if you're not interested in something, it's much more difficult to apply yourself.
And I have that kind of thing, and I don't even know what it's called. I quite often will switch them around.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I have a really weird thing. People laugh about it. It's very true, though. The number 5, weirdly, and the letter F. And sometimes I just every now and then I have to stop and actually stare at a page and think, which one is it?
Yeah,
and
interesting.
The longer you stare, the more confusing it is. Like there's words and you've written them down 100 times, and then that one time you write it, you go, that looks odd.
Yeah.
And then the more you look at it, the odder it looks. And then you check it and it's fine. It's like, why did that look odd when it hasn't 2,000 times before?
And menopause is not helping the cause, ladies. That's for bloody sure. It's like, do you ever have those moments where I do think it's a bit of brain fog. I really do. I think, like as you say, words that used to just, know or say, like I sometimes will be talking and I go, what's that word?
Oh, all the time. That happens to me all the time. But I think that's also ADHD as well as menopause. So that's the double whammy, I think. But I also think that when we're doing this, it's that whole being aware. And that's what I catch myself doing it, whether it's my kind of mental health or that cognitive or forgetting, rather than going, oh my God, I just go, that's what it is. I don't feel like that way. That's just my mental health today. I'm not that. That's just that today. That's the menopause kicking in today. I'm not hopeless. So it's just kind of reminding myself and saying it out loud every now and again. And you know what? I think it helps. I think it helps me from getting really down on myself when I do have those little moments. Because if you believe it all, that you believe that you're losing your mind, then, that's when I think that the whole mental side, you begin to lose that as well. But if you just remind yourself going, okay, that's normal, for me at the moment.
I love that you raised that and that you were talking about ADHD. And because I do think whether it's ADHD or it's other things going on, when women go through perimenopause, and I shout about perimenopause from the rooftops and I kind of go, all your symptoms could be this, but sometimes your symptoms are not just that. Right. And I think this is a really important discussion to be had as well, because there are women who are going through mental health issues or ADHD or other cognitive kind of issues that kind of get ignored, because when you go to the doctor, they tend to lump you in, well, you're that age, so it's just menopause. Or if you go away. Has that been your experience?
Well, Sandy, the funny thing is that my last 2 blood tests where I've had my hormones checked, my doctor said to me, oh, you've got the hormones of a teenager. I go, what? Well, but that doesn't explain some of the other symptoms I've got. So that's how I think it can be really confusing and misleading. So if you've got a woman who's having some mental health issues and is gaining weight and all of these other kind of perimenopausal symptoms are happening, and you think, oh, okay, then I must be in perimenopause. You go to the doctor and they go, no, good as gold. And then, and then all of a sudden you've got, I've got a marina in, but I spot every now and again. I'm like, well, hang on, I've put on all of this belly weight. My boobs are getting bigger. My mental health has, I think over the last few years, luckily I've been on board with looking after it. But had I have not, it did deteriorate quite a bit. And yet that's got to have something to do with being, I'm 53 this year. So that just age in itself, even though the blood tests are coming back fine, some of the other symptoms are going, okay, no, that's perimenopause. But yet, the blood tests, so to speak, are coming back fine. And I think the other interesting thing is that you go in and, with the ADHD as well as menopause and perimenopause and mental health is, I think easily they get misdiagnosed as one or the other. So, you could be someone with ADHD and really struggling because you can't feel like you can't get your shit together. But they haven't diagnosed the ADHD. So you just think that you've got mental health issues because you're so upset with yourself because you can't function. And then they're going, okay, well, you can't function. You're really sad. Maybe if we give you, medication for that, that'll fix that. Which, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing at all, because it does fix it. But yet, the underlying issues are still there. So it is just a big hodgepodge, I think, in this age. And that's why we need all of those support networks around us to help us, because, trying to pinpoint exactly what it is so difficult because there's just so much shit going down.
It's so true. And I think this is why it's really, really important. And I say this to everyone. If you go to a GP and they just kind of are very dismissive, women tend to know yourself, right? So even if you're in perimenopause, that's a confusing time and you go, I don't know if all these symptoms are this or that or whatever. I don't think anybody's symptoms, regardless of what they are, should be ignored. And I think it's you can't just go, oh, well, you're 53, so it's perimenopause, or do you get what I mean? So I do think, I always say, if you go to a GP and you feel a little bit dismissed, find a new GP and keep shopping around until you find one who actually listens to you.
That's right. I agree.
I can't recommend enough, I believe, in, like a female doctor who has potentially been through it.
Yes.
Is ideal.
Yep.
From my experience, that's what I've got,
No, I agree. I was very lucky. I walked in. My doctor had left, and then the new doctor came. The woman, she was incredible because she was going through it herself and saying, I think this is what you're going through. And I'm like, really? Because I feel like, and she was like, well, I'm pretty sure it is, but let's do the blood tests and, let's check all your other stuff going on. And I think that's important. I felt validated and I felt really listened to.
Yeah. I think you definitely need empathy and compassion from doctors at that time as well. So you definitely don't want to be dismissed. But if they sit there with empathy and compassion for you and are prepared to listen, you're definitely off to a great start.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's very real.
It is. And it's like someone the other day I saw it was described as like, puberty 2.0. And I kind of went, is it though? Like it's a really different kind of stage in your life and very different things going on from
Oh,
puberty.
yeah.
And that is not to dismiss puberty at all. But you're right. I think there can be a lot of stuff going on in women's lives are often complex anyway. Let's face it.
Correct.
We take on a lot. We're carers. A lot of women in our age bracket are in the sandwich generation of looking after kids and aging parents while they're juggling work, while they're juggling a whole lot of other stuff in their life. Marriages, divorces are happening a lot in this age bracket. I think it's very complex to just say to lump everyone in the one basket for
I
sure.
agree. So true.
And I also feel like we are actually the generation that have really begun the conversations about menopause, for example, because Trish and I have talked about this before. Both of our mums are in their 80s, 80 and 81, and they never talked about it. I remember my mum fanning herself, when she would have a hot flush, but she never complained. She never talked about it. She most certainly never went and saw a doctor. She didn't. And that's one of the reasons why I held off going to the doctor for so long and talking about my symptoms, which were mostly physical, although I did, it was certainly very emotional. And so I did have that side of it as well. But certainly like the hot flushes were brutal. And I thought, no, I don't need to do anything because my mum didn't do anything. Mum didn't do anything. She just toughed it out. So if mum didn't do anything, I won't do anything. And perhaps if mum had spoken about it more, and I'm certainly not judging her because that generation didn't, maybe I would have gone to the doctor a lot earlier and sought some help.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a conversation that we are having more, and I think that that's going to be very beneficial to the generations behind us because it's
100%.
We're not, the generations prior have just been incredibly stoic. I think that comes from a legacy of having to be, when you look at the women who stayed behind when the men went to war, there was no time for whinging. You just had to get in and get it done. So it's kind of like that legacy of just, being and seen and not heard or whatever. And we're finally shaking all that off and going, no, we need to be heard. And this is important because this is how we feel.
Yeah, I love that. Bloody love that. It is a fascinating thing because my mum was kind of the opposite in that she was like this hippie flower power kid. She bloody bombarded us with all this information about everything. She openly talked about sex and periods and this and that and contraception and abortion, and at a time where my friends' parents weren't talking about that stuff. And I remember being hugely embarrassed, going, just shut up. Why? Stop it.
Now of
So am I.
Of Eddie, and what was her daughter's name? Absolutely Fabulous.
Oh yes, exactly that. It was just, oh darling, this is what it is. She'll just get it out there. I think it's really quite amusing. Like my friends would definitely talk to her about stuff that they wouldn't talk to their own parent. But I was hugely embarrassed by it at the time. And but now I'm so bloody grateful. But the one thing she never ever talked about with me was bloody menopause. And she's passed away, and I don't know why she didn't. And now I'm like, oh God damn, we could have had the best conversations, right?
Sure.
And I almost and I feel like no matter how open and brilliant she was, I do think there is her generation, even the hippie flower power out there kind of people, was this thing that the moment you hit menopause, you were old.
Yes.
Right? And there was this thing about not wanting to age.
And also all of the talk about, sexuality and whatnot, that was all about that, not necessarily about her. It was about what was going on and about you and about people's choices and whatnot. It wasn't about I'm suffering. Once again, if we're suffering, we've got to keep that to ourselves, that generation.
Yeah, so bizarre, isn't it? It's just such it's not bizarre. I just get that's how it was, but how sad. I feel like how sad that she felt she could talk to me about anything, but she couldn't talk about that. And now I'm so, I want to know now when it's too late. I'm like,
maybe she was talking to you about those things because they were the issues that you confronted as a much younger person. You're not confronting menopause when you're in your teenage years and early 20s, but you are, you are coming into that stage of your life where you're sexually active, where pregnancy is a concern, STDs, all those sorts of things. So she's keeping the door wide open for conversations for those issues for you. But no, you're not facing that. So maybe she was thinking, I'll talk to Sandy about that down the track.
Or maybe she's one of those very few unicorns that have very little symptoms and just breeze through.
Yeah. We have friends who are breezing through.
It's interesting, isn't it? So I've had friends who are older than me who I thought had breezed through, who then went, no, I just didn't talk about it. And it was pretty, right? And I find that fascinating too, saying, well, why weren't you telling me?
Yeah.
You're 10 years older than me. Why didn't you, I think it is this thing of why it's so important for us all to be talking about it, right? I've got a 25-year-old daughter and I'm already including her in these conversations because for that exact reason, because now when I look back and think, why didn't my mum tell me that? Because I want to almost normalize it. It's just yet another phase of our lives, right?
It is. It's natural.
Once again, a rite of passage. It's meant to happen. It's, we should be revered.
Yeah.
We should be bloody revered. That's true.
Evolve.
Yeah. Hey, girls, I want to talk to you about, since we're on this subject, I absolutely am a huge fan of your podcast, Don't Give a 50. If anyone's not listening to it, they should be bloody listening to it. It's fab.
Yes.
And it's fun. And you two girls have sort of come together. It's fun. You talk about all this stuff. Nothing's taboo. I love that. So tell me, I'll start with you, maybe Mel. Like, how did it all come about? Tell us all about it.
Just got spat out of a very difficult year in 2020, and decided that I really needed to repurpose myself. Was feeling very, very lost. Was in the depths of menopause. And I think I've actually been spat out the other side of menopause, just to be clear. But
is that sad that I'm envious of that?
Me too, girl.
Menopause envy right now.
Was looking to repurpose myself. A friend suggested I do a ladies startup course run by Mia Friedman online. So I jumped online and I did that. And when she was brainstorming different ideas of things that you could do, because I didn't really want to start a business as such, and she said, oh, you might want to do a podcast. You might want to do, she listed all these things. And I thought, I would love to do a podcast. That sounds really interesting. And then about a week later, I had lunch with a very good mutual friend of Trish's and mine. And she said to me, do you know what, Mel? I've been thinking, I think you and Trish should do a podcast. And I'm like, this is really weird how this is all working. So I rang Trish and I said, how about it?
Oh, yeah, I'll give that a crack.
So I've had this idea, Trish. I think we should do a podcast. We have a very, very long friendship, known each other since we were teenagers. And Paula observes us when we are together. And she thought that the chemistry would lend itself very well to a podcast. So I think she was pretty smart there. Yes. And so, basically that's how it started. That's the simplified version. I don't want to bore your tribe. So
and then we did this, and then we did that.
Yeah, and then I.
Yeah, that's what started the creative ball rolling. And
Don't Give a 50 was born, and that took us about 3 months to come up with that name.
Yeah, there was a lot of it.
It was like so many names brandished around, but we came up with that one. So that's it.
I love it. I love that. And that was going to be my next question, how the name came about, because it's such a fab name. Like people often say to me about this podcast, oh, the Good Girl Confessional. Oh, I love it. Where did you get that?
I do too.
So I'm just kind of fascinated where other podcasts, especially women, get the names of their podcasts because they're often quite funny or smart or quirky.
Well, that's because women are.
Yes, we are, Trish.
Funny and smart and quirky.
I'm the other quirky one. Yeah.
We brainstormed.
We knew that we wanted it to be a little bit irreverent as well, like just a little bit cheeky, a little bit rude, a little bit kind of,
Well, that's when we're together, like on our own, like we're very rude.
We are.
Very rude. And so, like, so I guess it's just
a little bit irreverent.
You're in the right place here, ladies. Don't worry. Good. You're in a confessional.
Love hanging with you, Sandy. Love that.
Yeah, just, it's the whole kind of, is it deprecating? Is that the right word? How do I say it?
Deprecating
humor. And, that just the ability to take bit of the piss out of yourself, have a bit of fun, and don't give a 50. It's kind of is what it is. We're all getting old. Don't give a 50.
Well, that's the idea. That's the anyway. Goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
To age. So we're pro-aging because that's the end goal.
Well, the other option's not great.
No. No, we just want to go
pick an age or
so we just don't give a 50 about a lot of that other stuff.
Aging's a privilege, and bottom line is sometimes we all give a 50, but it's just reminding ourselves not to take it too seriously. I mean, that whole thing, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, who's going to care? So just the stuff that matters. And share it. It's like we always talk about, we want our podcast to be like having a chat with good friends, because you always feel better after you've had a good chat with your friends. Even if you felt shitty and ordinary when you first arrive, when you leave, you feel better, you feel lighter, you feel possibility, you feel like, I've got this, I'm so grateful. That's what we want to kind of achieve.
And I think you are achieving that with your beautiful podcast. That's what it does feel like. It's quite lovely. But what it is, it's true. I mean, when I dial into you girls and I'm listening to an ep of your podcast, I walk away feeling like I'm smiling, I'm smiling or, having a bit of a chuckle to myself. And even though some of the stuff that you girls talk about is actually serious stuff.
Yes.
Right. But it's uplifting. And I think that in a world that is quite at times dark, and as you say, I think we were all spat out the other side of 2020, 2021. It feels like the world is kind of, there's a lot of not nice stuff going on.
No, and I think too, there's so much pressure on, because we all want to be so thoughtful and compassionate and aware, and there's so many things we can say and can't say and should be aware of, and all of that sort of stuff is quite heavy. But it's not that you want to be dismissive of that, but you also want to look at the stuff you're going through as well. And I guess that, when you are dealing with heavy stuff, quite often that dark humour will come in. Well, I know when my family in particular, in those moments where you need to deal with really heavy, really emotional stuff, quite often that's when the dark, inappropriate humour may come up. And it's being able to go, okay, that's a coping mechanism in this time. I'm not being disrespectful. No malice is intended or any harm is intended. It's just a way of kind of coping with life at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But also too, it's really nice to inject a little bit of humour into, pro-aging stuff, and, why it's important, but for us all have a little bit of a laugh together, because, honestly, I don't even know if we were recording this or not, but before we were talking about boob sweat. We were talking about, right, with you ladies, like that's a reality.
I think we were, just for the record, I think we were recording.
Oh, excellent. Good. I'm glad that we were, because,
Well, if we weren't, tip, ladies, 3B cream. If your husband doesn't have it, get your own. It's great for underneath the boobs on a hot day.
I didn't know it was an actual cream.
Yeah, it's 3B. It's called.
I learned so much from Trish, Sandy.
She lives in a highbrow world. She's just an uptown girl. She needs to
But I'm married to a farmer. So there's no one more grounded.
Oh, there you go. Rush out and get him and yourself some 3B.
Yeah. Have you heard about it, Sandy?
For the boys.
I have heard about it.
Well, okay.
Great for the boys at the beach playing footy.
Okay. All right.
It helps to stop a bit of chafing.
Yeah.
Chafing. So the boys who go to the gym.
Chafing cream.
Chafing, but it's good for
well, I've heard of chafing cream.
Yeah, this is just the brand of this particular.
Okay.
And it used to have a commercial on the TV, and there was like boobs bouncing and I don't think
and balls wobbling.
You have to Google it now and see if it had balls.
Balls and boobs. Balls and boobs.
Between the buttocks.
Oh God, I love it. Anyway, so you girls came together for this podcast, but tell me a little bit about, because you touched on this and I think it's so beautiful. I have been surrounded by a group of women that I've been friends with since we were kids. They're all coming over actually on the weekend with their partners to just, we do these catch-ups. They're just fabulous. But these women have really like propped me up, been there my whole life. We went through periods together, first boyfriends, boobs, getting boobs, my God, can you believe it? We went through marriages, divorces, babies, more marriages, all the things. We've all been through it.
All those milestones.
All the big ones, all the firsts as
Crashes.
well. Oh, the crushes.
I was about to say something. And if we were sitting around having a glass of wine, I would have said it. But see, all right, a long way.
Yeah, but it's true. But we quite openly, this group of women and I talk about everything. We talk about sex, we talk about blowjobs, we talk about boob sweat, whatever it may be, right? We're just talking about menopause. Now we're all in it. And it's really interesting going through that journey with so many women. There's there's 10 of us, which I know is rare and quite interesting. But I want to know about your friendship, because you said you've been friends for a very long time. I love the dynamic that female friends bring to our lives. So talk about that a little bit.
I agree. It's very unique, isn't it? That female friendships bring a unique dynamic. Trish went out with my younger brother, for 8 years.
Scandal.
He's my child.
Ooh.
So he was, entrenched in our family for that time, and we just always got on
until I was dropped.
Oh my God, did he dump you?
Time I remember,
did he drop you?
Conversations with Trish.
Time.
It was
it run its course.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So our friendship developed that way, and then through that, some of your good friends became, like Paula became one of my very, very close friends. Is that what you mean? Sorry.
Yeah. So it's kind of our friendship. That is how we met, but I think our friendship and our connection grew besides that fact. That was kind of the conduit.
That brought us together.
Highbrow word.
Very highbrow word, Trish.
And
noted.
And then I think it's just that women's ability to keep in contact, and it doesn't need to be every week. It doesn't need to be every day. We had we lived on the coast, and at that stage it was like a small country town, and I had a group of friends from school. Mel has a group of friends from school. Some of those groups are kind of all integrated, and even when we weren't living in the same state or even the same country, we would always keep in contact or up to date with the other person through someone else, through another mutual friend, because inevitably, and I can't pronounce it now, life will pull you in different directions for certain times. And as much as you would love to get together, you may not. But then when you do, it's the type of friends that no time has passed at all. So that's just lovely. And that's what we've had. And I think just, that connection, that banter. And as you said, knowing people who knew you when you had your first this, people who know your stories and still love you.
We've had quite a few drunken adventures together. When going right back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm older than Trish. So we had the separate, like 3.5 years, I think it is. So, but we had these friendship groups, but they're also sort of like semi-co-joined as well. And so we've had, so the stories go right back. And I agree with what Trish is saying, that everything and you still, love that person anyway. How could you not? Because that's just life.
And that's just something very special when you're at this stage of your life as well, because they know you. They know who you are. They know your past. They know your quirks, and let's face it, we've all got quirks. We've all got things that just, that's us. That's that's what makes us who we are. Might drive some people nuts. But then when we are driving our friends nuts, they just go, oh, you know what? That's just that quirky thing about her. That'll be, it'll be under control tomorrow or not. It's just that people know you that well and you're that comfortable. Yeah.
Which you would through your own friendship group, Sandy.
And I also think that now that we are at this stage of life, you also realise how much that is to be absolutely treasured and just really nurtured.
Well, I'm a massive believer in nurturing female friendships. And we've talked about this because Trish and I don't have sisters. We only have brothers. And so, but most of our close friends,
dead envious of our friends with close sisters.
They've all got sisters, and most of them, not all of them, but most of them are very close to their sisters. So for a long, long, long time in my life now, I have really nurtured my female friendships. They're very, very important to me. They were an important lifeline when I was going through my own challenges in 2020.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I just don't know where I'd be without them.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Females are always going to be there for you all the way through.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's so important, or it's great if you've got that other partner in your life, male, female, whomever, whatever. But I think that relationship you have with a good friend or your good group of friends is one that is just so precious and has to be nurtured, because it just brings a whole lot of other things to the table that other intimate partnership may not be able to bring.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And there's something really extraordinary and powerful about having those people in your life who I have been married twice and divorced twice. And when the second one happened, I thought that was going to be forever. It was, I was with him for 18 years and it was devastating, Those girls walk through the door. I have, they walk through the door with wine. They knew me. They knew everything about me. I didn't have to give the whole backstory. They just walked in.
Oh, absolutely.
Held me, let me cry.
Yeah.
Said, what do you want us to do? Do you want to vent, or are we allowed to call him an arsehole yet, or whatever, right?
Or can we just go now?
can we just go for it, or what? No, I think, but it's that kind of having that. It's like having sisters. It genuinely, for me, is like having sisters in my life. And to have those people walk through the door at the darkest moments in your life, whether it's divorce, both of my parents have passed away, to have those women around you who they just rally, and you don't have to explain it. They already know how you feel.
They're like your wings. They're just lifting you up when you need it. Yeah,
exactly right. And, through the good times too and the funny times. Like I remember going, after an 18-year marriage, going out dating for the first time, and dating apps weren't a thing prior, and then they suddenly were. And me taking my girlfriends on that journey with me was hilarious. I mean, I wrote about it. It's out there. But it was so amazing that they would be, how's it going? And what kind of weirdo? Did you meet a weirdo this week? Or what's, it was hilarious and fun. And it just made me feel like I wasn't alone, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's the important part too, because I remember even those early childhood breakups and being in your 20s, and some of your friends are partnered off, and, when you're single, you can feel so alone. And, it's just remembering, I think, how you felt in those moments, and then recognizing when one of your friends is going through that, is reaching out there and being there for them. Because it's
absolutely
tough. Yeah. And I think it's so easy sometimes also to forget that, because, some people will get busy with marriages and children and all of that. And it's easy to get so kind of clouded by that day-to-day admin and living that you can forget about that happening to your dear friend over there. So that's when you really need to go, hang on a minute, I need to step up for her. That's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you so rightly said before, Mel, that, the really amazing friendships are the ones where you can step away, and you do get busy with life, and you might be like flat out and working and kids, a bit family, whatever your thing is, building a business, whatever you're doing in your life. But the moment that friend,
it's a lot out of you.
It's a lot. But you know what? It's just that then that when that friend rings you and says the shit's hit the fan, that you go, oh my God, and then you become the person who grabs the wine or whatever, and you're heading on over, right?
Absolutely. And you do it without question.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is, if the friends like me, they might not ring and say the shit's hit the fan. They might just go total recluse mode.
Yeah.
Right, and that's when you've just got to go over with the wine and go, hang on, hello, is anyone in there? No.
Yep. And that's a really, it's a very important point. You're right. I think, but that's the kind of nice thing about having really deep friendships, is that you do know each other, and you kind of go, oh, that person's gone really quiet. I called someone the other day who's a really great friend, but she's interstate, but she, is very sort of active on social media, and she wasn't for quite a while. And I thought, well, something's wrong. I rang her and I said, are you okay? What's happening? And she said, well, actually, I'm just having a bit of a time. And I went, but I think you're right. You're so right. You just got to be sort of a bit more mindful that, just to be present, I think.
Touching base. And it's funny, I caught up with a group of girlfriends over Christmas that, we hadn't seen each other for a little while. And having the conversations, I don't know how many times I said, I'm so sorry, I didn't realise you were going through that. But we get so busy, they're not reaching out because they're busy and dealing with their own stuff. And we're all just kind of getting through. So it's just that important thing to just pick up the phone every now and again if you can. I mean, that's a good thing, I think, with friends our age. There's no expectation. If you don't do that, that's okay. But it's really nice if you do every now and again.
Yeah, or even a text message,
Oh, absolutely.
Takes a second. Slug-ups, how are you? That sort of banter, the inappropriate nicknames.
Exactly right.
Mm.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, Mole.
Yeah.
What's going on, you Mole?
How are you, Moles? Yep, same. I've got as you girls probably know, I've got another podcast I co-host, which is called Alex the Seal.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I just like the dynamic that you two have. Like I've got a co-host, she's amazing, Jo Pybus. Hi, Jo. But she has this like cutout of, because it's music, it's nostalgia, 70s and 80s music. And she has this cardboard cutout behind her because she's in Canberra of Molly Meldrum. And so when she got him and she surprised me, I said, oh, my God, my two favourite moles.
Love that.
Do yourself a favour, Sandy.
Do yourself a favour. We say that a lot. Do yourself a favour. Oh. Poor old Molly didn't keep his pants on recently, though, did he?
Oh, my gosh, at Elton John.
Lordy.
We've always been a little bit naughty.
Oh, dear. Cheeky.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun.
A lot of talk about buttocks.
I wonder if Molly was using his 3B. There you go. Oh, funny. But I love that.
You're going to drop your DAX, right?
You would hope so.
Another tip for you, ladies.
Yeah, good Lord. Bloody hell.
Make sure you use your cream.
That's right. Hilarious.
We're all doing it. Well, I'm going to do it too.
We're all doing it.
Our boobs.
Nice. It's all doing it. I was going to say that, but I love that kind of dynamic because, on this podcast, I'm kind of over here and, I host it, but really it's your story. And it's, and I love having these amazing, just fun chats with women. And, but when I'm with Jo, it's such a different dynamic, right? It's a lot of fun. We kind of bounce off each other.
Well, it's true. And I think sometimes, there is a bravery in two.
And a power.
And so when you are having some of those difficult conversations, I know sometimes we've spoken to people and my mind will go blank, for example, and then Trish will pick up the conversation and vice versa.
I will be speaking and for the life of me can't pronounce a word correctly and I'll need Mel to help me with that. But, that's one of my quirks, and that's something that when I was younger horrified me and I was so embarrassed, and it really kind of maybe I think it damaged a bit of my confidence. I don't look like a person who would appear not to be confident, but inside that is one of my insecurities. But just accepting that and going, well, you know what, I fuck my words up all the time.
So does most of the population. Okay. I do too.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, I can only just count.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think and it's growing up, Sandy, the thing is sometimes we don't have the energy, or not the energy, but just the desire to show up for ourselves. But showing up for a mate, that's something different. I might choose to let myself down one day, but to let Mel down, that would just be a whole different thing, a whole different realm of, oh no, that's something I couldn't possibly do. Me? Yeah, sure, I can disappoint myself, but to disappoint Mel, no, that's not on. So it drives you a little bit when you, I guess it may wane, and a little bit of motivation.
Sense of accountability, isn't it?
Yes.
To each other and to the
I'm
product.
not very accountable for myself, but Mel will be accountable.
It's the beauty. It's the beauty of the dynamic and of the relationship and the friendship, isn't it? And of women.
And it's fun. It's fun doing stuff with your friends.
Yeah,
it is fun. With your other podcast, you just the weekly catch up, the giggles, the laugh, that hug each week when we see each other. It's just really nice.
It's really nice.
It is kind of lovely, isn't it? And you're right. I mean, I think I have moments where I'm like, because Joe and I tend to record on a weekend and I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed. But it's Joe. So, of course, I'm getting out of bed. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
There she is with my other favourite mole, and you just get on with it, right?
It just, even this morning I rocked up today and, I've had a headache and we talk about caring. My mum is 80. She has Parkinson's and I've been with her the last day and a half. And, she's adorable and gorgeous, but it's a lot, it's exhausting and it's confronting and all of that. And so you kind of, your mind's just, I don't know the word for it even, but exhausted and headache and whatnot. And, and then, here I am an hour later laughing, cheering, feeling like I could change the world. Whereas 2 hours ago, I'm like,
I don't want to. I don't want to adult.
That's the thing. Like we have these little things and we think we can't do it or we don't want to do it or whatnot. But then when we do it, we go, yeah, I feel amazing. So it's, it's getting that endorphin hit, getting the dopamine through the contact with a girlfriend, through having these amazing conversations. And, I'm mindful because I have spent time. I do live on a farm. I make it sound like it's so remote, but it's only an hour out of Brisbane. But still in that it's still remote. And I've had a lot of times where I've felt lonely. So even knowing that this conversation that we have can make someone else who may have been feeling a bit empty and unmotivated, they've just had a chat with some friends.
Yeah.
I love a couple of our girlfriends have said, that they'll be listening to us with their headphones on and walking along and laughing out loud and feeling ridiculous, or they'll be trying to interject and talk to us and then they're going, oh shit, they can't hear us. Or one of my friends, she said, oh my gosh, I was lying in bed with my headphones in listening to you. I was going to sleep with you and Mel. And my husband goes, what are you laughing at? She goes, just Trish, Mel. So just to think that you're bringing a little bit of light and happiness to some of these moments that we go through, I think is great.
Yeah, I love that. And I get people who send me text messages as they're listening, like to the podcast, but they'll straight away, as they're listening, they go, oh, and you go, what? What are you listening to? But it's lovely. It's really lovely. But I do think you're right. When we're flat, when we're having a bit of a time, bit of a day, I think that human connection with a female friend to me is like the most powerful thing. Like I do.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I love that you girls in your 50s decided that you were going to be podcasters and you were going to make other women smile and bring other women on the journey with you. I really love that. I guess I get contacted a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, by women who say, oh, how did you start a podcast? Or why, because people want to start a podcast. What would be your advice to women who are over 40 or over 50 or over 60 and they want to do it, but they think, who's going to listen to me? Do you get that from people? I do. And I go, of course people are going to listen to you.
I think we thought that.
I think we still think that.
We still think that. Sandy, who's listening?
I did too. Don't get me wrong. I did too.
Give it a crack. If the passion's there and you're having fun, give it a crack. I think one of the smartest things we did, Mel had another good friend who had a podcast, and she reached out to her and asked a lot of questions. Through that, we met our producer, Dave, who he actually has a company that helps people start podcasts and helps them record. And so he helped us start our podcast. He gave us the confidence and courage. Well, I think we had the courage.
Yeah.
He gave us the confidence, and he handled a lot of that technical side that we were completely
very worried about that.
But in saying that, we've learned confidence as we've gone on and feel more capable. He still does most of the background stuff, which is great. So it's just, I think that whole researching, finding out how can I do it, how it's going to work and what you want to achieve out of it, and just go for it. I mean, you don't have to do it the way we've done it.
No,
you can do it different ways,
no.
but I think that felt comfortable for us.
I had a very extensive conversation with Dave right at the start, just outlining, the conversations that Trish and I had about what we saw it like, looking like or sounding like, and just to see whether it was going to be viable. And he just said, bring it on. This is awesome. So Trish and I had done a lot of brainstorming and had a lot of conversations, and then we went from there. But it has most definitely been, a process of vertical learning. And, we've had a lot of hiccups and challenges and things like that along the way, but
daylight savings is
daylight savings.
Times.
Let's not talk about that, Brisbane ladies.
But
totally my fault.
No, it wasn't. But I think, I know it's interesting. So some of the conversations I had at Christmas time with my sisters-in-law in New Zealand, I realise now how much I've learnt from our guests, because I was imparting all these pearls of wisdom. They're not my own. They're things that I have learnt from the incredible women, and we've had some amazing men on as well.
Yes. What
we've learned, and you don't even realise that you're learning it. But when you all of a sudden you start having conversations with other women who aren't prioritising themselves or, struggling in different areas of their lives, and I'm able to say, well, what about this? Could you try this? And how about this? And it's all stuff that I have learned from our guests. So everybody brings something to the table. So it's just been the most amazing experience, not without its challenges, but just an incredible experience and worth it for, even if, I see us as part of a growing movement of change. And I think that you do as well, Sandy, and it's a really important movement of change, how we approach aging, because it is a positive thing. And so even that, is amazing, is amazing to be part of that.
I think one of the big things is that we've learned is that stay curious is a huge one that I've taken away.
Yeah.
Like just that curiosity and to keep learning things about different people, keep interviewing different people. There's so many amazing people there who are not necessarily celebrities, but just under the radar, who have just done these amazing things. So it's just that curiosity to learn more about people and life and what makes us tick and what gets us through stuff and, all of those things. So, I love it.
We're not going to park up in our 50s and think, right, I've done it. Do you know what I mean? There's just so
I might
much.
have a little recline every now and again, but I might not park.
Park up.
There's no lazy boy happening here.
I have a little nap occasionally. Kirsty Worth, one of our guests, has said there's nothing wrong with taking the nap. Look after yourself. Get your cortisol under control, and having a little nap when needed is okay. But you don't have to park.
No, you don't have to park. Park up. I meant like permanently park up. Like that's just not us. We're far too curious and we've got far too much energy, to ever.
Mel wouldn't even have the nap. Oh, I would have the nap.
No, I'm not a great napper. No.
I'm not a napper either, Mel. But I envy women who are. I do.
I can put a podcast, not a podcast, a little meditation on, have a little cheeky little 20.
Really? See, I envy that.
They're good for you, those 20-minute power naps.
Yes.
They are great. I come out of those so groggy.
That's part of my whole cognitive thing as well.
Are you not groggy at the end of that? Because I wake up, I'd be groggy for about an hour.
No, it depends. It depends how long. Sometimes if you sleep too long,
it's a disaster.
Like I know in the morning, if I don't get up when I should, and I think, I'll just have a little bit more, then I'm cactus.
Yeah,
like that extra half an hour in the morning, forget it.
Does not serve you very well.
Does not serve me at all. I just need to get up and get going.
Yeah, I hear you.
Thanks, peeps.
How about you, Sandy? How's your energy? Do you have good energy?
Yeah, you know what I am. I think it's really fascinating watching myself as I get older, because I've always considered myself like a little bit of, I'm the ever ready, bunny. I mean, that's, I just keep going and going and going, and people are like, oh my God, how do you do so much? But I did recognize towards the end of last year, because I do tend to do a lot and I take on a lot, and I'm a kind of person who just, that suits me and I love it. Yeah. But by the end of last year, sort of getting to Christmas and then New Year, I was really limping to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired. tired. And
what did you do?
So I rested. I had to really pull back from like WB40 and the podcast for a bit. And we pre-recorded episodes on the lead up to sort of Christmas, thank goodness, because I really needed the break. And I allowed myself to fully have that break, which I'd not ever done before. When that meant like really not switching on. You know, and I gave myself like, I think it was like 2 days over the break where I was going to, you know, for 2 hours on those days, I was going to check emails in case there was anything urgent. Beyond that, I just went, I have to stop because the world isn't going to end. Things aren't going to fall apart. I am not that fucking important. That, right? I'm sorry, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. That people are going to be like, you know, falling apart without me. So I just kind of I needed the break. I just needed the break.
You did.
And you need, at that point, and it's so true, you need to get out of your own head and go, for God's sake, you're not that important. Get out of your head and have a rest. Enjoy. And I think Mel and I took a huge break, and we didn't, the last year we pre-recorded, so we had shows all the way through. We didn't this year. We just recorded because I think what you end up doing is you're working so hard to get ahead for your break that you're even more exhausted.
Yeah.
So, you know, we gave ourselves a decent break and, you know, we felt a lot fresher. And I think that that is good, and just allowing yourself to go, okay, I do need to fill up my cup. I do need to have that break so I then can live with more vigor.
Yeah, agreed.
Vigor.
You're just pulling them out left, right, and centre, Trish. I love that.
Where's it derived from?
Where's it derived? Vigorous. It's derived from
Vigoro.
Vigoro.
Oh my gosh. Is that still a thing in Queensland?
Oh.
Vigoro? Let me tell you this.
At school. It was
yes. No one in Melbourne would ever know what Vigoro even was. But for those uninitiated, it's women's cricket with a weird bat.
Yeah,
a weird bat.
Triangle padded bat. I think women just play cricket now, but yeah, we played Vigoro.
We
Vigoro.
Murchie and Murchie Primary School. I clearly remember playing Vigoro.
Yes.
Me too. We were sort of forced to. And then they, you know, you're on the Vigoro team. I'm like, I only spent 3 years living in Queensland as a kid in primary school. And I was like, what the hell is this Vigoro? What? And I remember my mum, feminist, little left-wing feminist, said, why the hell don't they just call it cricket? And I was like,
oh, they do now.
They do. I haven't heard that for years. Vigoro.
See? Little pearls that we just drop.
Why did they call it Vigoro?
I don't know. You know, I'd so forgotten about it.
Email Sandy. And she can tell us what it was.
I'm going to be Googling it now.
Dive into the history of Vigoro and why did they even bother with it?
Yes, exactly. It was quite short-lived, wasn't it?
Yes.
Look, and it sounds really fancy, but it really wasn't, was it? It was just
No.
Vigoro.
No, it was a wonder they didn't put us in some sort of period costume while they were playing. I've got visions of playing
like neck to ankle, like croquet.
Croquet.
Really was just a bee's dick away from croquet.
I would love to have pounced around playing Vigoro in a period costume.
Imagine that. You're onto something.
Love of the period.
Drama. We love a period drama, Tricia.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I just saw Emily yesterday.
Oh, did you love it?
Wuthering Heights. She wrote
yes.
Wuthering Heights, darling.
Withering. Well, my heights were withering. Well, yes.
She wasn't in perimenopause yet, darling.
Not. She was very young.
Club, they were withering.
They were withering heights.
God, how embarrassing.
Who cares?
Don't give us
Who cares?
Who gives a 50?
Who gives a 50?
Wuthering Heights was... 50 me.
Oh, you girls.
Anyway, I'm going to watch it now because I love the Bronte sisters.
Yes.
Yeah. They were geniuses, those girls.
Yes. Well, it was very interesting, and it would be interesting. I need to do a bit more research into how Emily's story was told and how much truth was behind it, because it was quite
Oh, no, it was sad. They lived in a sad time for women.
For women? My gosh.
And they all died young. They all died young. But a lot of people did die young.
True, that is true.
Yeah, they got controversial.
It turned into pneumonia and they died.
Yeah.
When they went out in the rain, they got a dreadful chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dreadful chill.
It's so surprising they all died young when they were covering their ankles. I don't know how that happened. It's so bizarre. Can you imagine walking around in those clothes
In this
Mm.
heat.
in the heat? Can you
No air
imagine?
conditioning.
No aircon.
That's why they died young, because they didn't
Oh.
have air conditioning.
No AC in the early 18th century,
No
girls.
wonder they used to feel faint. And, you know, if you spoke back to your husband, you were shipped off to an asylum. So there's that.
Well, none of those girls married.
There's a reason, clearly.
Well, yeah, and they were just
They were too intelligent.
They were so
Correct.
Well, they were.
No,
They
but that is true. Very, very
hugely
intelligent.
Hugely intelligent.
Mm.
You'd like Emily.
All
Well, I
right.
love. They're my favourite authors.
I'm going to go off and watch that now myself. There
Yeah,
you go.
me
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
I've always got a good recommendation because I do spend a lot of time.
I love it. Speaking of recommendations, for anybody who's out there listening before we wind this up, I'll be sad when it ends, that for ladies who are listening who are over 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever it may be, what's some really good advice you can give them if they are not feeling visible? And if they're feeling a little bit like, oh my God, I'm feeling like this is it now.
Oh, it's not true.
It's not true. That is true.
But the visible thing, this is something that I've been questioning a lot lately, the visibility. Like, I think it's interesting because I heard someone say the other day that they didn't mind feeling not visible because it gave them the ability to really watch and listen and learn and kind of observe. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, hang on, you're not seeing me, but yet I'm working away here and I'm very relevant and what I'm doing is very relevant. So are you the fool for not seeing me?
I think it
rather
becomes...
than concentrating on you're not seeing me, going, you're the fool for not seeing me and still going on.
True.
Does that make sense?
It does. It makes
just
perfect
a different
sense.
way of looking at it rather than going, I'm not being seen, going, well, whose fault's that? You're not seeing me, but I'm going to keep on going because I don't need you to see me to be brilliant.
I think the problem is when women don't feel visible, they also often feel not heard.
Correct.
And that's a huge problem, I think. So what advice I would give? I mean, listen to our podcasts, The Good Girl Confessional and Don't Give a 50, because we are, communities of women that are talking about all sorts of things. You are not alone. You are most definitely visible. I think it's a social construct that, you get into midlife and it's over, that you're not curious, you're not interesting, you're not alluring. That's 50 and bullshit.
Yes.
So, and we actively, I don't know, like work our own lives, absolutely against that mindset and that way of thinking. We choose to live our lives in total opposition to that mindset because it's a fallacy. It's an untruth. And I don't support it at all. And I ache for women that feel like that. I do believe, Sandy, the podcast has made me feel more heard. Of course, because that's what I'm doing. But does that make sense? And
yes,
and
it does
certainly
make sense
as well. That has actually helped that. I was definitely feeling, a sense of that. I wasn't, despairing. I wasn't in that, I wasn't that low, but I know for some women they are. But it's just
we had moments of. I definitely had moments of feeling very lonely and kind of what next. But I think that the big takeaway or the big advice I would give to women is create a little support network or a big support network, whatever that support network is. It could be, our podcast, your podcast. It could be, if need be, a therapist. It could be reaching out to some friends, looking at different groups, whether it be a book club or, some other sort of group. I was listening to a book yesterday, and it was talking about the Wicked Women's Choir, and it was this group of women who would get together and sing, and they would I forget what it's called, their Fury song. So they went around in this circle and they said the thing that was shitting them the most that week, and then they would sing afterwards, and that left them feeling really uplifted. So I think it's finding that thing, finding that support network. It doesn't need to be one thing, two things. It's whatever you want. If it's, Mel swims with a group of girls, she goes to the gym, I go to Pilates, and I go and see a therapist, and I've got good friends, and it's just making sure that you go, hang on, I need to see me. It's not necessarily all the other people. It's I need to see me. I need to see that I need support and I need nurturing, and I don't need that from anyone else. I need to provide that for myself. So I need the support network, whatever that involves. That's the thing. Look after yourself.
I agree. I think that's really good advice, Trish. And I suppose a lot of
Don't
it
know
does
where it came from.
It does come from being self-motivated in that sense as well. So recognizing it and then being motivated enough to reach out.
That thing that really eludes us at times is our own self-worth. And I think that to really go, okay, no, and I'm not going to put that self-worth in the hands of other people. It's not going to be in the hands of someone looking at me or someone hearing me or whatever. I'm worth it. I'm going to nurture myself. I'm going to create a support network that makes me feel good.
Yeah. And I think that that's just huge.
Patriarchy.
No, I think that's absolutely beautiful advice. I am super, super thrilled and grateful for your time today, ladies, because I felt like we were just having a really good natter in the lounge room, and I just adore you both. I love everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
We adore you.
We do.
We're grateful to you as well.
Come up to Queensland and play some Vigoro with us.
Oh, okay. We'll do. Have the wine ready, girls.
Oh, yeah.
So beautiful to see you both.
And you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Sandy.
And thank you for having us on your amazing podcast.
Oh,
you're amazing.
Really appreciate it. And look after yourself, ladies.
Thank you.
We're so proud of you and what you're doing as well, Sandy.
Oh, thank you so much. Vice versa. I will put all of your links and everything in the show notes below so people can follow along. If you haven't listened to Don't Give a 50, it's on all your favorite podcast apps, so get on there. And we'll talk soon.
Hope
Sounds
so.
great.
Bye, darling.
Have
Bye.
a great week.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to you by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine. Available now at WB40.com. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to quality podcasts. We're also now available on YouTube. We chat with really interesting women about their hard-won wisdom, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for your support. Bye for now.